What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be talking about how wide receivers can choose a press release off the line of scrimmage. So we're going to be looking at two specific situations here that you guys are going to commonly see. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about off-man coverage and a little bit of zone coverage and how you guys can structure yourself off the line to attack that. Okay, so I hope this video helps you guys out, gives you some value. But also, fellas, if you want to know everything that wide receivers need to be doing as far as on-field workouts go and in the gym workouts go, check out that very first link in the description for our ultimate wide receiver training schedule. So what you'll get access to is you'll get access to a full 4-week-long on-field wide receiver workout plan, all the drills you need to be doing broken down to sets, repetitions, and a day-to-day schedule, and we combine that with our 28-day wide receiver gym plan, all the specific exercise wide receivers need to do in the gym to help their peak performance. So I hope you guys could check that out. Very first link below if you want a day-to-day wide receiver schedule. Let's get started. So first release here we're looking at is from Julian Edelman. Now, how you guys can choose a release as a wide receiver all depends off of that DB's leverage, right? So now that's how you can structure, because there's a million different releases you can use, right? We talk a lot about there's a million different releases that you guys can have coming up to that line, but in a game you have to narrow it down and you got to have a plan for every single thing that a DB is going to be coming at you with, right? So now let's take a look at this clip. This DB is outside leverage, right? So what does that tell you? And especially out of the slot, you slot receivers out there, you guys are going to be seeing a lot of outside leverage coverage. So how we can choose my release against this guy is based off of the route, based off of the DB's leverage, and it's obviously based on the play type. Those are the three specific things, because we got to keep timing with my quarterback. I can't be doing all this fancy stuff, and I got to be able to get him off that platform, and I got to be able to get to the spot of the route he needs me to be at, right? So now what Edelman decides to go with here is this wide step release, right? Where he steps with that outside foot of the foot that's behind him, I should say, because his feet are a different split on this one. And that's mainly for timing, you guys, just for those of you that don't know why receivers split their feet sometimes. But nonetheless, this DB's outside shade, right? So if he's outside shade, we want to make him think that I'm going inside because that's where he wants me to go, right? This still looks a lot like man coverage, and it still is man coverage because that's where his eyes are. His eyes are on Edelman's hips. So when they're outside shade and man coverage, what that usually means is he has safety help to the inside, right? So when he has safety help to the inside, he's okay with me going to the inside. He's okay with forcing me to the inside, because when he forces me to the inside, he's forcing me right into the help. He doesn't have any help outside. So if I need to get outside, like Edelman's running a 5-yard out route, my goal is to get this DB to commit to the outside. And if I can get him to jump to the outside, that opens up so much space for me, right? So how we get him to do that, right? How we get him to do that is with this wide step. I actually have to step. There is nothing about this route right now that says that he's going to be running an outside breaking route. He's fully committing his shoulders, fully committing his hips. He's throwing his hip into the break, and he's stepping wide. All of these things, this DB's got an internal clock. When he sees this, and he sees Edelman throw all the way outside of here, he has no choice but to run, because he does not want to chase him. He does not want to give him a free release and run 50 yards across the field with him, right? He does not want to chase him, be on his back hip, and let Edelman run a drag, especially if you guys are a drag-heavy team. So when we have that outside shade DB and I have an outside breaking route like that, I have to attack his inside. That's where he wants me to go, so he's going to be a little over-anxious to jump on that thing, and that's what can open up a lot of opportunities for us to take that outside release. And obviously, great example here of what Edelman needs to be able to do to create some separation when we're against an outside shade DB. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job fully committing his body, stepping wide, getting that DB to jump, and then ultimately getting that outside release that we need to get. Okay, so now let's talk about this specific clip here. So we have an inside shade DB, and we're going to be running a fade route. Okay, so now how wide receivers can structure their release to this is very similar to what I was saying with outside shade. You got to know the responsibility of the DB, know why he's playing that specific leverage, understand the timing with your quarterback, and then ultimately understand what the DB's responsibilities are, right? So let's watch the thing again, full speed. So he comes off here, does a great job attacking that leverage, threatening him inside, getting that DB's eyes in the backfield that he's able to make that catch over the top. So let's talk about this, right? So I come up to the line of scrimmage, right? And let's say no matter what it is, I have an inside breaking route, I have an outside breaking route. When I have an inside shade DB, I know his responsibility is what? His responsibility is to keep the inside shade. He wants to force me to the sideline. This is the more common coverage that you guys will be seeing when you guys are on the outside. If you're the X or the Z or whatever it is, you guys will be seeing this type of coverage when they decide to go man, right? You're probably seeing a little bit of head up press, but mostly inside shade press, because he is trying to get hands on you and force you to the sideline. He's hoping that on this fade route right here, that you just take off and go, and he gets right into your hip, forces you to the sideline, gets you off that red line, and the quarterback has an impossible throw to make. That's what he's hoping, right? So as an inside shade DB, what you want to do is you want to attack his leverage. So that's exactly what Mike Williams does. You see how he closes the distance with him. He attacks his leverage, because when you attack a DB's leverage, he's taught to keep his leverage. So if he keeps his leverage to the inside, guess what that does? That opens up all of of this space to the outside. So Williams does a great job of threatening him to the inside, right? He sells with his entire upper half. Look where this DB's watching. Very similar to that clip that we were talking about with Edelman. He's throwing his entire upper half. He's actually stepping outside the DB's frame. That's what's going to get him to jump, and that's what's going to get him to move when he is inside shade, because again, he does not want to give up the inside. So if we can attack him to the inside and we can threaten him to the inside, and I have a route where I want to take an outside release, then I can create a ton of separation and get up vertical, right? And that's exactly what this receiver, that's exactly what Williams does. Keeps his head down, gets his DB looking in the backfield, and we are as open as we can get on this specific route. Now let's talk about this route. Now let's say you had to do like an inside breaking route. Let's say you had to run a post route, right? And we come off the line of scrimmage. I would probably approach it the exact same way. The Edelman route, that was probably an exception because again, it was a 5-yard route and it was a close route. It was in close distance, like 5 yards. So when it's a 5-yard route, it's a close route, like it's a slant, for example, you probably have to take the inside release or the outside release. Like let's say Williams had to run a slant right here. He's probably going to set him up outside to get him to jump with like a diamond release and then take the inside release, right? But it's a longer route like a post where we can actually restack. We want to just take what he gives you, right? So if he's inside shade and I come off and say I got to run a post, I attack his leverage, he keeps the inside shade. I don't want to force the inside release because he's just going to get hands and completely reroute me. I want to take what he gives me. I want to attack his leverage. I'll give him a move. Then I get back up. I work to restack. Then I run the post. You got to make sure that you have a plan. You got to make sure that you don't force things off the line of scrimmage. So that's the way you can choose a release as a wide receiver against an inside leverage press coverage DB. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Just make sure we give him something to the inside. Make sure we force him to stay honest because that's his job. His job is to protect the inside, and that's where we have to threaten him. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Williams closing the distance, getting him off that platform, and then making this play. All right, guys, if you have not heard, we are going to be in the Arizona area this weekend, October 2nd and on October 3rd for 2 3-hour quarterback and wide receiver training clinics. Hope you guys get an opportunity to check out that second link in the description below. Great opportunity for anybody who's located in the Arizona area, near the Arizona area, to get some work in with us. I myself will be there working with the wide receivers and the quarterbacks, and we'll be bringing out a speed coach to help you guys with 40-yard dash mechanics, overall running mechanics, and just help your overall athleticism. So again, second link in the description below. You guys, if you're in the Arizona area, close to it, or want to just come out and get some working with us, let's get back to this video, okay? So now, last release here. This is going to be off-man coverage, okay? So now, a lot of people ask me, hey, well, what if the DB's 7 yards off? What release should I go with? This is not considered a release, okay? So you guys got to know the right terminology as well. But how do you go about attacking this, right? How do you pick the move that you're supposed to use? And that's what we're going to be talking about. So we have an outside shade, off-man coverage DB. So we got to run an out route. That's the route that we're going to be running here. So this is exactly like the first clip that we looked at with Edelman, except this DB is 7 to 10 yards off rather than press coverage 1 to 2 yards off outside shade. But it's the same concept. It is the same principle. So let's watch the thing full speed. So this receiver does a great job of coming off the line, threatening him to the inside because, again, that's where he wants me to go, and then he's able to create some separation. So the top of the route is where you will get separation against off-man coverage. It is not about off the line. It's not about changing tempo. Top of the route is where you will get space. You don't want to change tempo when it's zone coverage. Number one, you don't want to do that. But now in this off-man situation, this is where you would change tempo. But I don't think there is a need to change tempo unless you guys have been setting him up with a fast tempo throughout the game. Changing tempo is what you guys can use because that's what this receiver, that's what Zach Ketchum does here, kind of changes tempo right before that rocker step. And the only reason he does that is just probably because throughout the practice or he's practicing in-game situations where that DB's starting to get your tempo, he's starting to guess your speed, he's starting to play things a lot closer. That tempo forces him to stay honest and forces him to have to trust his technique. And if he could trust his technique and focus on watching my hips, I can create some separation. So that's what the tempo changes, okay? But now, how you guys can choose to attack him. If you have an outside breaking route against outside leverage, you do not want to just attack his leverage and try to run out, right? So many receivers, what they'll do, they'll see this outside shade guy and they won't know that his responsibility is to force you inside. So they'll try to square him up, and guess what this guy's going to do? He's going to keep his leverage because he's taught not to let you get outside of him. So if we square him up like that, he's just going to keep his leverage. We're going to run right into him. So what Ketchum does such a great job up here is attacking that inside shoulder, because the goal is to get this DB to turn his hips and commit. Just like if we were up here and this would be the coverage he was going with, if he was pressed, my goal would be to get him to jump to the inside and go run the 5-yard out, right? So it's really all the same principles, fellas. It's just 7 yards off, and you got to take care of him at the top of the route rather than taking care of him off the line of scrimmage. So Ketchum does a great job of closing the space, great job of hitting him with that rocker step, very similar to what Edelman did, stepping outside the frame, hips and his shoulders are to the outside. That's what gets that DB to turn his hips, because that is where he is going to be watching. So make sure, fellas, outside shade DB, I have an outside breaking route. I got to set him up to the inside. I got to make sure I'm attacking that inside shoulder and threatening him to all this space that he is giving me, because he's going to be over anxious to drive on this, because you got to understand that it is still man coverage and he still does not want to let me just run free and cross his face. Okay, so now let's talk about this situation. Let's say you have an inside breaking route. Let's say you got to go run a post. Well, everybody's going to think, oh, that's easy, coach. Well, I got an outside shade DB. I got to go run a post. I'm just going to go take it, right? I'm just going to go run it. No, because what he's going to do is he's going to be right on your hip pocket and you're going to be running right into a safety. You got to understand, when he's outside leverage like this and off man coverage, he's got safety help. He has help over the middle. He will never, ever let you run over the middle without safety help in man coverage, right? So you know that there's somebody there. So you're going to have a very small window to hit this thing. So what you would want to do, this is when you would want to attack his leverage. You would square him up. You'd attack that midline, because when he keeps his leverage, he widens out. That safety doesn't see that, and I opened up all kinds of space for myself, okay? So that's how you guys can structure what you want to do at the top of the route. Don't worry about doing stuff off the line when you have an off man coverage situation. Let's watch it again, full speed one more time. Great job by Wilson throwing that rocker step and getting that DB to jump to the inside. All right, guys, we want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments below. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I always appreciate the feedback. Always great hearing from you guys. And again, fellas, ultimate wide receiver training schedule, all the things wide receivers need to do on the field and in the gym to take their game to that next level. Check out that very first link in the description below. Hope you guys could check that out. I'll see you guys next time.